Hello, and welcome to the Epic Saga Society, the podcast that follows our two favorite sagas, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and everything else fantasy and sci fi.
Today we're excited to dive back into the Game of Thrones universe with the brand new series, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
I would like to introduce my co host. He's fresh off of his trip to Essos, where he's been convening with Red Priestesses, Carlos Alatorre.
Yeah, I'm pretty popular with the Red Priestesses. But back from another jousting victory, beating Baylor after 7 broken lances. Doesn't matter what anyone says, it was 7. Calvin Hamilton.
Hey man, it's all about how you win, not how many lances you broke to get there.
Yeah, man, I hear people saying 4 lances, but it was 7. So I know you stood your ground.
Hey man, this is what I do. This is what I do. Today we'll be covering episode 2 of A Knight of the Second Kingdoms, Hard Salt Beef.
And I just want to issue a spoiler warning here. If you have not seen the episode, we were getting into serious spoiler territory. So please go watch the episode first. You're going to enjoy this podcast episode a lot more. Now, with that, how about we get into it? What do you say, Calvin?
Sounds good to me. You want to start us off?
Absolutely. Now, after failing to convince Manfred Dundarian to vouch for him, we're back with Sir Duncan the Tall, and he's just spending his days moving through the tourney grounds at Ashford, and he's asking other lords to remember his former master, Sir Arlan of Pennytree. He's kind of in a desperate spot, and he's also reminiscing about some of the times that he spent with Sir Arlan. So despite all this, no one remembers this guy, which is really sad. There's some nice memories that Dunk has. We start to see a fuller picture of Sir Arlan. We see that he liked to walk around nude, apparently.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was a little free. I guess anyone would be that free but
I guess so.
he liked to drink, he liked to whore around. Oh, but he also had some good memories of him fighting or practicing. You see Dunk and Sir Arlan practicing fighting, you see them riding, you see them laughing together. So it's kind of nice that Dunk has all these nice memories with him. You also see this nice scene where they're sleeping beneath the tree. But yeah, it doesn't seem like Dunk is having these ideas that maybe Sir Arlan wasn't as great as he thought he was. But it kind of doesn't matter because in Dunk's mind, Sir Arlan was someone who instilled chivalry and honor and valor into him. Yeah, it's an interesting moment. And I want to ask you, Calvin, what do you think this kind of says about Sir Arlan and Dunk's relationship? Because we know that Sir Arlan got Dunk when he was a young kid and he was from Flea Bottom in King's Landing. But I don't know. I mean, he doesn't seem to be. Well, I don't know. What did you make of Sir Arlan, seeing him kind of unfiltered?
Yeah, it made me seem like Sir Arlan was a very unserious knight and just kind of lived his life, a little bit unserious. It's not like he lacked honor. He just lacked any kind of drive. It looks like he got lucky to get someone like Dunk, who maybe, forgive me for saying this, he's not the brightest necessarily, if you will. So he's got lucky with this impressionable young boy and like, hey, I got a squire to follow me around. Sir Arlan was just a very unserious hedge knight who was just kind of doing his thing, frolicking all around the Seven Kingdoms, just kind of living a hand to mouth existence
Yeah,
with bringing him along. So, it, yeah. What about you?
yeah. It kind of seemed like, on the face of it, it kind of seems like he didn't really have that much ambition. But I feel like the question becomes: is that the better way to live? Right? Because maybe I don't know. It seemed like Sir Arlan knew they're never going to be lords of some castle,
Hmm.
of some keep or something. So I'm wondering if this is kind of like him accepting, being more stoic and accepting, hey, this is who we are and this is how we're going to live, and we can still have a happy life.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it also kind of seemed like he wasn't, like you said, he wasn't really trying.
Yeah, I think he wasn't really trying. In a world as cruel as Westeros, an argument could be made that this might have been the better way to live, and maybe for folks like them, it might have been, right? Because we talked in the last episode about what are the options
Yeah.
in this world? Like, what really are the options? Like, you work for a house and doing
Yeah.
something that you may not want to
You
do.
serve a
Like,
lord, Night's
yes,
Watch, City Watch.
exactly. But
Yeah.
they don't really answer to anyone. I the It's escaping me now what this reminds me of, but some people would argue it's better to be free and not have to serve anyone
Mhm.
than, you know, being a slave to money, being a slave to power, having to serve
Yeah.
a lord. They really are free. Sir Arlen was free in a lot of ways, and he really embodied that.
Yeah. And it seems like Dunk kind of wants that same thing, but he also is striving for a little bit more, it seems like.
Mhm.
Because I mean he technically is not a knight.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
knighted himself.
Mhm. Very true. So after Dunk finishes reminiscing, he makes one last appeal to Leo Tyrell. And Lord Leo, he listens and then states, just like the rest of them did, he never knew Sir Arlen. So as they walk away, Egg asks whether Arlen was truly a great knight, if no one remembers him. And Egg is asking all the right questions here.
Yeah.
Dunk insists that he was, and Egg pushes back, mocking the nobles for their rudeness. And Dunk admits that, they are his betters in wealth, power, and years of training. So just seeing the respect that Dunk has in general, and especially for those in a higher position. So then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we hear the sound of trumpets, and the royal delegation from House Targaryen arrives, and it's pretty cool. You see the banners with the red
Yeah.
dragon.
The dragon sigil. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Egg gets nervous and he basically tells Dunk, "Hey, I think I should return back to the camp to make sure that the horses are not stolen."
It's so obvious.
Right? And then Dunk agrees, and then he moves closer to the castle to catch a glimpse of the royal princes, and a herald announces the arrival of Crown Prince Baelor Targaryen, heir to King Daeron the Good and Hand of the King, and along with his younger brother, Maekar Targaryen. So Baylor greets Lord Ashford, and he's nice, he's courteous, is introduced to Gwyn Ashford, and whose honor the tourney is being held. And as Dunk is staring, he's kind of just like standing staring there looking. A young Targaryen, who we know as Aerion Targaryen, he rides past and he orders Dunk to attend his horse. And Dunk is like, I'm actually not a stable boy. And then he's like kinda looking at him all snobbish, and then he asked him another question. He's like, "Well, then why don't you go fetch me, like, something?" Right? And then
Yeah.
Du Dunk is like, "I don't do that either."
Yeah.
He was like
He's like, "Get me a
basically he's
drink.
like,
I'll
"Yeah,"
give you
he was
some."
like, "Well, what good are you then?" And then,
Yeah.
walks away. And yeah,
Yeah.
he's like, "Knighthood has fallen on hard times."
I know, what a jerk.
Right, like, that's rude.
He said it so calm and so, like, uh
Ridiculous.
yeah.
So, yeah, so, Carlos, this is an interesting time where, as of right now, at this moment, there are no fights, there are no wars, and, the Baylor and Maekar are just able to come see this tourney. So, how did you feel about the Targaryens' arrival in Ashford?
I thought it was really cool to see them. I like the fact that they're coming in a little bit more, what's the word? Conventionally, right? It's not like they're flying in on dragons.
Right.
Yeah, by this point, dragons are gone. There hasn't been a dragon, so it's interesting to see them come in. They have to make their rounds. They have to make appearances. Now they're just like everybody else. The only thing that's separating them from any other royal family, aside from the fact that they've had lineage, their lineage is ruling Westeros, is that they used to have dragons, and that's pretty much it. It's all just the idea that their blood is better than everybody else's blood, and it's not. That's not true. So,
Right.
yeah, it's interesting to see that them coming in. Regardless, it's funny to see someone like Arian so pompous and haughty, like real big Malfoy energy there,
Yeah.
just acting like his shit don't stink. So I think that's funny because yeah, their source of power doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, exactly, like, you're one to talk, y'all don't got dragons, so, relax, calm down.
Yeah. And it's I mean, this is coming on the heels of the Blackfire Rebellion, right?
Mm,
So maybe they do feel a little bit of that like empowered because they won, like their
yeah,
side won. But at the end of the day, that Blackfire Rebellion was just true-born Targaryen versus base-born Targaryen, right? Or
yeah,
like bastards, you know. So I yeah, it's pretty interesting, but not surprising.
very interesting. So do you feel like because of Baylor and Makar's role in the Blackfire Rebellion that they're kinda walking around with not a chip on their shoulder, but like, "Yeah, we did that?" Or did you not get that sense?
I do think that they like I said, I do feel like they've been empowered because I mean Baylor is the rightful heir to Darren. And I mean they have their names for a reason. Baylor's the hammer, Makar's the anvil. So I mean between the two of them out of the four brothers, they're the warriors,
Mm,
right? So I feel like they feel that they've earned their power. And I will say I gotta hand it to Baylor because as we're gonna see in the next scene, I feel like he would be a good king.
yeah,
He is an
absolutely.
honorable man. Before we move on, I thought it was so funny when Egg was like, he's like, "Don't steal my horse, or I'll come after you with dogs." And then he's like, "You don't have any dogs." He's like, "Where are you gonna get these dogs, man? You can't even pay for a saddle. You can't even pay for like armor." So I just
Yeah.
thought that was so funny. This kid is just so quick, you know?
He's incredibly intelligent, and Dunk
Yeah,
is a bit behind him, and so it sounds like Dunk was just saying something that he probably heard from Sir Arlen, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He's just repeating everything Arlen did. So when one of the Targaryen horses panics in the stable and it actually injures a man, which I was like, dude, that horse could have killed that guy. I'm surprised he walked away from that. You know,
Yeah, I was
hit
like,
him right in
I
the
thought he
face.
was done.
Yeah. I was like, this is Game of Thrones. Somebody's going to die right now. But no, surprisingly. Dunk pulls the horse into a stable. So it's kind of nice. You get like a Aragorn and in Rohan moment where he's like calming the horse down.
Mhm.
There he's approached by two knights of the King's Guard. So this is kind of cool because for the first time in this era, we are seeing the King's Guard. We're seeing Sir Donal of Duskendale and Sir Roland Crakehall. So Donal apologizes for Arian's behavior because Arian, also known as the Bright Flame, is just kind of a dick. Sir Roland's a bit dismissive. He's like, "Where can I go to the bathroom? I don't know. Where can I find some food? Whatever." So Donald explains that Roland's arrogance comes from his high birth, while he himself is the son of a crabber rather than a noble lord. And I thought this was interesting that he's trying to instill this confidence in Dunk, saying, "Hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can be a knight. You're worthy of that title because you know at the end of the day, how did any of these people get their power? They took their power.
If you go back far enough, someone
Yeah,
just took their power and someone came from nothing.
exactly. And that's why this show is so funny. It reminds me of A Knight's Tale because they even say that. Like the main character, Heath Ledger's character, he even says, like, how did all these nobles get their power? They took it at the point of a sword, you know? So anyway, so it's just kind of interesting that Sir Donald is telling him, like, yeah, don't worry about that. So encouraged by this, Dunk follows a serving woman through a side entrance into Ashford Castle. Remember, he's still trying to get someone to vouch for him. And I was actually surprised at the confidence, the gall of this guy to just follow a serving woman into the castle. But he goes
Right?
inside, yeah, he's listening and he's kind of like spying on Baylor and Makar. Like that's I don't know. That's pretty the audacity is there.
Yeah. Right?
And he's hearing them talk about Lord Ashford's study and they're arguing about Makar's sons, Darren and Aegon. Okay. So now this is Darren the third of his name, and this is basically the son of Makar, the oldest son of Makar. Arian is the second oldest son of Makar, and then Aegon is the youngest son, and they've gone missing. Now, Gwyn Ashford, she quietly joins Dunk and whispers that, hey, wars have been started over less. What are you doing? Why are you sitting here like listening to this? And I thought it was so funny. She just straight up was like, "You're big and dumb." She just walks away.
She runs away. She
Yeah.
wants to, like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I was like, "What was that about?" But Baylor, he tries to calm Makar. You can see that Baylor is the much more polite, gracious, and reasonable one. And he's saying Darren has wandered off before he'll likely be found by the Kingsguard. And so he questions why Makar brought his sons to the tourney at all. Like, they have no more place there than their brothers Eris and Rhaegal. So Makar kind of bristles at this, and he accuses Baylor of insulting Darren and insists his son, will prove himself. And I mean, it's important to remember Baylor. He brought his son, and that's Valar or Valar. And he's expected to be at these things because Baylor wants to educate and train a new warrior, like, because he eventually will be the heir after Baylor. So I think Makar is trying to do the same thing with Darren as his oldest. So yeah, what did you think about Baylor and Makar? Like, I'm eager to hear your take on these characters.
Yeah, first, it's just clear that they make a very stark contrast to each other from the very, very beginning, both in physical appearance and in how they speak and show up. And I think it's very interesting. We'll get to this a little bit later that Baylor has dark hair
Yeah,
and Makar has like blonde hair.
so
And
yeah,
Makar, yeah, and Makar looks just look at his facial expressions. He looks a little off. Like, he looks a little mean, and Baylor seems like even, calm, and
yeah,
kind. Just
composed.
composed, exactly. All the makings of what you would want in a good, strong leader.
Mhm.
So I just thought the how sharply they contrast in terms of their physical appearance and their personalities was shown very well. I'm like, interesting. But we've never, as far as Targaryens go, we've never seen this sharp of a contrast before on screen. So it was cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Baylor, he's echoes some of those traits of like the old king Jaehaerys,
Hmm.
who we saw briefly in the first episode of House of the Dragon. But he's the longest living king. He died at a very old age, and he was considered like the best king, like the good king, because he made all the roads in Westeros. He just was beloved by the people, and so I feel like Baylor has some of
Hmm.
that essence in.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, you can definitely tell. And it's a shame that we didn't get to see any of his rule in the House of the Dragon. We just saw the very beginning.
Oh yeah, Jairus.
Yeah.
That's see, man. That's kind of the movie I want to see.
Mm. Yeah, like that'd be a good movie.
Yeah, I would be
Yeah.
down for that because his whole life is crazy. It's
Mm.
awesome. He's like a true hero.
That'd be so cool to see. Makar, he suddenly notices Dunk spying, which anyone would have seen it because he wasn't even trying to hide. He's
Yeah,
so big, he just standing there on the side, like listening,
like
like you do
his
know that you're not hiding, right?
his
I was
cloak
like,
is peeking out of the thing.
literally. So Makar is like, "Who is that? Come forward." And Dunk gets all nervous and he just walks in and just starts, I call it word vomiting. I'm like, "Do you know
Yeah,
who you're talking to right now? Like, what?"
it's like
So he
dial it
just
back.
walks in and, you can see, I forget what his name is, but the Lord of the Tourney, he is, like, shaking his head at him like,
But yeah, he's like, no, don't do this.
But Dunk immediately just starts explaining that he wishes to compete in the tourney, but that he needs a lord who can vouch for his master, Sir Arlan, and he hopes that Baylor might remember him. And then I couldn't believe this, Carlos. Baylor recalls that Arlan never won any tourney of note, but never
Yeah,
disgraced himself either, and that he remembers facing Arlan in a joust at Storm's End and recounts how Arlan once unhorsed Daemon Lannister, known as the Grey Lion.
yeah. What are the odds?
I'm like, this is crazy. And then I think he says like Daemon Lannister, or he says a name and then he waits for Dunk to finish it. And I think Dunk is like the Grey Lion. I think
Yeah,
he says it,
he took a few seconds. Yeah, it's funny in
Yeah.
the book. In the book, they talk about how he's like, "Oh, I remember right now," and he's like freaking out.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Wow." So, Baylor notes that Arlen broke 4 lances against him before being unhorsed. It's similar, mine was 7, just like as Carlos,
Yeah,
mentioned earlier, just
yeah.
saying that.
It was 7 lances.
Yeah. It's contested, but yeah. And so, though Baylor's entitled to a ransom, Baylor returned Arlen's horse and armor because and he praised Arlen's spirit. And so he allows Dunk to enter the list, but he reminds him or tells him that since he's not of Arlen's blood, he can no longer bear Arlen's sigil and that he must have his shield repainted. So Dunk reunites with Egg at the Adornish puppet show, depicting the tale of Jonquil and Florian the Fool. Everyone loves this performance, and afterward, Dunk meets Tansel Too Tall, who says that her uncle makes the puppets while she paints them, and they just have a funny, weird interaction here, right? Where you can see Dunk trying to
It's really awkward.
super awkward. Like you
And
can
he's
tell
trying
that
to flirt
he
with
finds
her.
her attractive. I'm like, are you trying to flirt? What are you doing?
Yeah, what's going on,
Phew.
man? Even
Yeah, come
Egg
on.
was like he's trying to help him out. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Right. So Dunk awkwardly asks her to repaint his shield, and they settle on a sunset orange field, a green elm tree, and a shooting star. And Tansel's like, "Yeah, she'll do it." And
Yeah,
then they
thank
walk away.
God for Egg because he's like a green elm.
Yeah, exactly.
His Dunk's like, "Oh, yeah, it was bad.
Like
It's terrible."
exactly. But would you say that we got to see a little bit more of Baylor in this scene once Dunk rushes forward and starts just talking?
Mhm.
But yeah, how did you feel about Baylor?
I like the character of Baylor. I think he's very the way they're portraying him, and I don't know the actor's name, but the way he's portraying him is very true to the book. This guy is supposed to be a very honorable person. He's, like I said, a gracious person. He's somebody who he commands respect, but he's not a tyrant. And so I really like the way they portray him in this series. And he definitely earns, the eldest, like the that he kind of carries that.
Mhm.
He's the oldest, he's the heir, he's the next in line for the king, like to be king. So I think Makar was a good foil to Baylor. And yeah, I thought he did a good job. I'm eager to see him like interact more with Dunk.
Yeah, same here. And I'm also eager to see Baylor interact more with his family also to see how level-headed he is compared to some of his family members. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. So later, Dunk he goes to purchase some armor from Steely Pate. He's a kind of a big guy who's working on armor, and he's like, "You're big, but I've armored bigger." So I'm like, "All right, this guy, he's experienced."
Like,
Now
okay.
he explains that, okay, I got plain, well-made armor. It's more likely to save a man's life. He's like, I'm not making ornate winged pigs or fancy foreign fruit. So he's like, all right, yeah, whatever, man, I'll take it. And but to afford it, Dunk, he doesn't have any money. He gives him two stags, and he's like, "This is all I got." And Steely Pate's like, "It's 800," and he's like, "Two stags buys you a day. You know what? I'll give you a discount, 600." And he's like, "Oh my god!" So Dunk goes and sells one of his horses. He has three horses. He sells the oldest one, Sweetfoot, and it's Sir Arlen's palfrey. And he's like, "I promise you, I'll buy you back one day." Spoiler alert: he's not going to buy her back. Anyway, that evening, Dunk and Egg, they talk over ale and cider about Dunk's hopes of advancement. So now that he's sold the horse, he has enough money to buy the armor, so things are looking good. It's looking like this could be a possibility. Yeah, he's even dreaming of maybe impressing the Targaryens. And I mean, it's funny that he's telling Egg this because Egg is not, well, he's doubtful, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and we all know why. But the first round of jousting is held at night, which I thought was interesting. I thought it was kind of crazy and kind of dangerous to be doing a joust at night. I don't know.
I agree.
But it was pretty cool to see. I like how they started it where you hear the horns. It just reminded me of like the horns of like Helm's Deep or something.
Hmm.
And it was cool. All the bonfires were lit. All these knights, they tilt at once. So that was kind of cool to see 5 knights versus 5. And they're all like going at it at the same time.
Yeah.
The lances are splintering. The crowd is roaring. Egg is loving this. He's sitting on Dunk's shoulders and he's like, yeah!
He's
And
hype.
yeah, he's getting in it. And what's funny is they showed, I think one of the knights had a fish, right? So I'm assuming that's a tully.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
And he grabbed the fish and he like bit it.
Yeah, yeah, he did, and he threw it into the
Yeah, and then
crowd.
yeah, I was like, oh, you're doing too much, bro.
Dang.
But yeah, all of this stuff is happening, and Dunk is understandably, at first he's like thrilled, but as it's going on, he starts to become aware of just how in over his head he is in this.
Mhm.
Because I mean, he knows how to fight, sure, but he's never been in like a what I'm gonna call quotes professional like league. This is like a sporting league right here, and he's in the pros, and he's never done this. And so they return to camp. Egg is playing at being a warrior. He's all excited, but Dunk is reflecting on Sir Arlen, and he admits that, yeah, Arlen wasn't that great of a knight, or at least how could he be? Not the way the songs describe. He lived hard, he died poor, and he was remembered by no one. And it's kind of sad the way he's talking
Mm.
about it. It's kind of a bummer. But regardless, Arlen was good to him and he raised him as his own. Dunk might be kind of thick and kind of dumb. Dunk along thick as a castle wall is what Sir Arlen used to say. But regardless, Dunk seems like a good man, and he realizes that he is Sir Arlen's only legacy. And the next day the world will see what his master left behind. So I thought it was kind of a nice way to bookend that chapter, that episode, because it does come back to this question of, well, what is it all about? Like, are we trying to make a name for ourselves to get accolades and to win a position and win status? Or are we just trying to pass along what it means to be a good knight? The valor, the honor, the courage, the chivalry. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. What did you think about the ending? Well, actually, I want to ask you, how did you feel about the tilt, the first series of jousting, and then tell me what you felt about the ending?
Oh, so regarding the tilt, I thought that the tilt was fun. I was like, wow, like a real tourney, and you can see how they really go like back and forth several times, and it looked a little dangerous. You had folks falling off their horses, looking, and then that I don't know who it was, but that one guy, like the horse was coming back, he hopped back on his horse and he got back into
Oh
it.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I
what
was
was
like,
that?
man, you gotta have like a lot of skill. So I'm like, I don't know how people don't die all
I
the
thought for
time in
sure
these jousts.
I thought for sure someone was gonna die in this.
Yeah, I was like, "Someone has to die." It's just so dangerous. You just keep doing it until you finally, like, knock them off their horse.
Yeah. 2 episodes and no deaths. We're like in uncharted Game of Thrones territory here.
This has never happened. We have to remove our in memoriam segment temporarily because there's no
Yeah,
deaths.
there's
But
nothing to memorialize.
exactly. But I thought it was cool to see, and the fact that it was at night, I think added to the excitement of it. Like, things are always exciting at night,
Yeah,
when you do it at night, So,
yeah, it was very cool.
yeah, very, very cool. And then, yeah, the way that it ended, it was a hopeful ending. It's like Dunk saying that there's a chance to honor his legacy, right? And to make a name for myself. So, it gave me a little bit of hope that he'll actually be able to do that and that he can win out of sheer determination.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, now we're gonna get into our segment, Ask the Maester. Let's take a trip to Old Town and visit the Citadel, the source of all scholarly works in Westeros, and we'll ask the Grand Maesters, why does Balon Breakspear have dark hair, and who are his parents, and what's the whole story behind that? Carlos, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Like, hold on a second. Clip. Who are his parents? Baylor said Baylor Breakspear's parents. That's Darren the second with Miriam Martell. Okay. Just want to keep that in mind. All right. Absolutely. So, in order for us to answer that question, we have to understand a little bit of history. So, we know that Darren the First, this is like three, four kings before Darren the Second. He attempted to conquer Dorne by force. They called him the Young Dragon. So he was known as the Young Dragon because he was a very young king and he invaded Dorne through military campaign rather than diplomacy. Keep in mind, throughout the entire history of Westeros, up until the point of Darren the First, everyone tried, all the Targaryens tried to invade Dorne and they couldn't do it. Dorne is the one kingdom that successfully repelled Aegon the Conqueror, the first Targaryen to run a campaign to unite Westeros. Dorne wasn't having it. They supposedly they actually like mass produced the scorpions, those big crossbows that shoot at dragons, and they were able to keep them back. On top of that, it's like all of those mountain ranges and then that long desert, so they could like hide in the mountain ranges while they were defending their land. So they're geographically they have an advantage. But anyway, the young dragon was able to he was a little successful in occupying Dorne, and he left garrisons scattered across the hostile territory. So he did something none of the other Targaryens could do. But the Congress relied on constant pressure, and it didn't win Dornish loyalty. Eventually, there was a lot of Dornish resistance, and it made conquering the land a little harder. After Darren the First was killed during an uprising in Dorne, the garrisons were wiped out almost to a man, and the cost in lives was crazy. It was huge. And the Iron Throne, they it didn't gain anything. Like the Targaryens didn't gain anything from the effort in the end. So I guess in the end, Dorne proved that it couldn't be held through open war. I mean, Darren the First, he didn't completely fail. It was a warning for later kings, but his death showed that even dragons and armies they couldn't secure Dorne permanently. The realm was, war torn, it was exhausted, it was bitter, and they weren't actually unifying. So what eventually they did was the later kings, specifically Darren the Second. This is the king that is in power right now during this show. He chose diplomacy. And rather than repeat his uncle's mistakes, Darren the Second pursued alliance through marriage. And he married Miria Martell. And this was finally the thing that would unite Dorne, bring Dorne as one of the seven kingdoms, bring it into the fold, and unite Westeros so that it's one giant realm. And that is actually the reason why Baelor has dark hair, because Darren II married a Dornish princess. And he's actually one of the first kings to do this and have heirs. So yeah, a broader diplomatic effort rather than, a symbolic gesture. And I mean, coordinated marriages between House Targaryen and House Martell actually helps like Dorne become peaceful with the rest of Westeros. So it avoided more bloodshed, it created a good political bond, and yeah, Darren's strategy was shaped by Darren the First's conquest. So this is why Baylor, you can tell, like you can see his eyes are not that dark color, because most Targaryens, what they have like the silver blonde hair, or it's like darker silver hair like Daenerys, and they have the purple eyes, and either
Mhm.
it's light purple or they're like really deep dark purple, and Baylor's not like that.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. That's really, really interesting because that was the first thing that I wondered when I watched this episode was, wait, how do we have a Targaryen with dark hair? The only one I know to have dark hair. It's many, many years down the road, we have Jon Snow, who is a Targaryen and has dark hair. So that's really interesting, and it's pretty cool that Darren the Second was like, instead of fighting, let's go ahead and like get married, and it benefits us all. So it definitely sounds like that was a wise choice on his part and
Yeah.
now, because of that, you have this Dornish Targaryen, which I think is pretty cool because, yeah.
Yeah, I guess the other Targaryen that marries a Dornish princess is Rhaegar. the Mad King.
Jon Snow's dad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Jon Snow's dad. Yeah, so I guess they did want to. They do. I know that the Targaryen line and the Dornish royal family, they have like close ties because of this, and they maintain those ties for a long time. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Um,
Spoilers. I'm
actually,
just kidding.
actually, Calvin, prediction: when do you think the first person's gonna die, or something's gonna die?
The last episode of this season.
You think all the way to the last episode?
Yeah, we're not getting any deaths until the last. The way this is trending, I doubt it.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm gonna go opposite and say the very next episode.
You also have read the books. It's kind of not fair. All right, you heard it here, y'all. Expect a death next episode.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We
Hey,
shall
they're
see.
adding stuff. They're adding stuff, man. It could be new. Who knows?
That's true. That's true. They could completely change it. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that wraps up another epic episode of Epic Saga Society.
We hope you enjoyed diving into A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, episode 2. If you like what you hear, please support our podcast.
Yeah, you can find us at Buy Me a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Epic Saga Society. And check out our Patreon. We have a Patreon now, Galvin. So you can hear bonus content for all of our members.
Yes, we have lots of additional content that we've recorded for a bunch of our previous episodes. So please check that out. And also, don't forget to check out our Instagram. Our handle is at Epic Saga Society. And we're also on TikTok. You know, gotta be on TikTok also. And there you can find us at Epic Saga Society.
This is Carlos.
And Calvin.
Signing off from Epic Saga Society.
Stay epic.